8 years ago, my fiancée vanished on our wedding day to marry my best friend. Now she's back, stalking my family to ruin my marriage again. I, a 30-year-old male, never considered sharing this tale on Reddit, but recent events have compelled me to seek guidance. My life was destroyed 8 years ago when Florence, 28, my fiancée of 3 years, vanished on our wedding day. She left only a brief note, which devastated not only me but both of our families. 2 weeks later, I discovered she had married my best buddy, Mike, a 31-year-old male. Florence and I met during our junior year in college. I was struggling with calculus, and she was the teaching assistant. After several weeks of tutoring sessions, we began dating. Everything felt natural with her, the way she laughed at my bad jokes, the way she could read my moods, and even our goofy pizza toppings debate. After graduation, we moved in together and became engaged a year later. Mike has been my best friend since freshman year in high school. We connected over being the only two youngsters who picked chess club over football. He supported me through my parents' nasty divorce when I was 17, helped me get my first job at his uncle's company, and helped me cope with my anxieties. When I proposed to Florence, Mike was the first person I informed. He even helped me choose the ring. Wedding preparation was a dream. Florence and I wanted something intimate yet classy. Mike, my best man, pushed himself into assisting with every aspect. He proposed the historic Rosewood Manor as our venue, knowing Florence's affinity for old architecture. He assisted with seating arrangements, recruited our photographer, and organized what was intended to be a spectacular bachelor party. The wedding morning started off perfectly. The weather was ideal, bright with a little wind. Florence's favorite flower was white roses, and the location looked magnificent. I was getting ready with my groomsmen, joking about my crooked bow tie, when my sister, Emma, entered the room. Her face looked pallid, and she held a piece of paper. Florence was gone. She had vanished while having her makeup done, leaving only a message that said, "I'm sorry. I can't do this. Please don't try to find me." Her phone was turned off, and her wedding gown was still hanging in the bridal room. None of her bridesmaids knew anything. Her parents were distraught. They'd spent a fortune on the wedding and had family flying in from all over the country. The following few hours were frantic. We called hospitals, looked into nearby hotels, and even contacted the police. Florence's mother was upset, thinking that something awful had happened to her daughter. Her father appeared to have aged 10 years in one day. I recall standing in the center of the venue, surrounded by flowers and empty chairs, feeling imprisoned in a nightmare. 2 weeks have passed in a blur. I ate and slept very little while attempting to figure out what went wrong. Florence's relatives filed a missing persons report. Then my cousin, Jake, gave me a photo of Florence and Mike outside the county courtroom, and my world collapsed all over again. She wore a plain white dress, he wore a suit, and they both smiled at the camera. I drove to Mike's parents' place, hoping for a horrible joke. His mother answered the door, confirming my worst fears. They had just been to Mike and Florence's little wedding ceremony. She had the audacity to tell me it was probably for the best, that Mike and Florence were destined to be together. She urged that I let them be happy and get on with my life. The betrayal was suffocating. Mike had been there for everything, venue tours, cuisine tastings, and numerous planning meetings. He had looked me in the eye and helped me write my vows while covertly plotting to kidnap my fiancée. Looking back, I saw signs I neglected. Florence grew distant around 3 months before the wedding. She began working late, having regular girls' nights, and behaving strangely near her phone. Mike began missing our usual basketball games and bar nights, always citing an emergency or work reason. Our friend group disintegrated. Several of them were aware of Mike and Florence's situation but chose to remain silent. My best friend, Tom, finally acknowledged that he had seen them together at a restaurant 2 months before the wedding but didn't know what to tell me. I could not trust anyone anymore. I resigned my job, sold my car, and relocated to Seattle for a new beginning. I removed my social media accounts and changed my phone number. The humiliation was too much to endure in our small community, where everyone knew what had occurred. I poured myself into work, received a promotion, and gradually began reconstructing my life. Florence showed up at my office yesterday, after 8 years of utter stillness. She seemed smaller, exhausted, and lacked the brightness I recalled. She was crying, claiming she had made the worst mistake of her life and needed to explain everything. When I refused to speak, she became frantic. Security had to remove her from the premises. Now she's harassing my relatives with messages in an attempt to reach me. She believes Mike misled her with complex lies about me, and she claims to have proof. My sister believes I should hear her out. She claims Florence is truly eager to explain, but I'm not sure I want to rehash these old wounds. The past should remain buried where it belongs. I created a new life for myself. Opening this door feels perilous, as if you're allowing pandemonium back in. But a part of me still wonders what she might have said to justify what they did. Should I listen to her explanation or maintain the wall of silence I've created over the last 8 years? Update 1. After my previous post went viral, things became much more problematic. Florence did not stop attempting to contact me. She called my coworkers, former college pals, and even my elderly aunt in Florida. Finally, my sister Emma persuaded me to meet Florence at her home. Emma offered to be present throughout the conversation and vowed to kick Florence out if things became heated. Last Saturday, I arrived at Emma's place feeling sick to my stomach. Florence was already there, and she didn't appear like the confident woman who had abandoned me at the altar. She brought a large cardboard box containing what she called evidence of Mike's manipulation. My hands shook as I began going through it. The contents of the package revealed a depth of duplicity I never imagined imaginable. Mike had fabricated an entire story about me having a secret family in Portland. He had edited pictures of me with another woman and 2 children, including timestamps and location data to make them appear legitimate. There were bogus email threads, doctored bank statements indicating monthly contributions to this alleged family, and even a forged marriage certificate. The most disturbing part was discovering how he had exploited my history against me. He twisted my weekly therapy appointments, which he knew about as my best friend, into secret meetings with my other family. He cited my work excursions to Portland, where our company had a key client, as evidence of my double life. Every innocuous facet of my existence became part of his intricate deception. Florence described how Mike seeded seeds of doubt months before the wedding. It began with subtle remarks about my visits to Portland. Then he showed her the bogus messages he claimed to have discovered on my phone while I was sleeping. He made a phony email account, purporting to be the other woman's sister, and warned Florence about me. The inheritance perspective made me feel horrible. Florence's grandmother had left her a sizable trust fund, which would become available after she married. Mike convinced her that I was only marrying her to get my hands on that money, and that I intended to leave her quickly after receiving the funds to support my actual family in Portland. When Florence attempted to challenge me about these revelations, Mike had a response for everything. He told her I would definitely deny everything, that I was a brilliant liar who had duped everyone for years. He gave her more fabricated evidence of me allegedly threatening other women who had attempted to expose me. What truly drew me in was learning about the wedding site. Mike did not suggest Rosewood Manor at random. He knew Florence had always wanted to get married there, but he also knew something else. He'd dated one of the event coordinators. This granted him access to the location ahead of the wedding. He seized this opportunity to place additional evidence in my dressing room, which he intended to uncover during the wedding preparations. Florence broke down in tears as she revealed why she married him so soon after leaving me. Mike had convinced her that if my hidden existence was uncovered, I would try to hurt her. He presented recordings of phone calls that later turned out to be manipulated snippets from various discussions in which I allegedly threatened harm against my other family. He presented himself as her protector, the only person she could rely on. The amount of calculation required makes me physically ill. Mike had been plotting this for almost a year, methodically weaving his web of falsehoods while claiming to be my closest friend. He performed both roles perfectly, the helpful best man assisting me in planning my wedding while convincing my fiancée that I was a monster. Florence stated how naive she was to believe everything. She claimed Mike separated her from everyone who may challenge his stories. He convinced her that her friends were complicit in my life, and that her parents were too blindly supportive of me to recognize the reality. By the end, he was the only person she felt comfortable trusting. I sat there for hours, poring over the facts and feeling like I was going to throw up. Part of me can see how someone may fall for such intricate trickery. The evidence he produced was convincing. I nearly believed some of it myself. But another part of me can't get over the idea that Florence decided to believe these dreadful things about me without ever giving me the opportunity to clarify. She wasted away our entire relationship because of lies that might have been disproven if she had simply spoken with me. 8 years is a long time to understand that something was wrong. I spent 8 years of my life dealing with the humiliation and sorrow of being abandoned at the altar, while she lived with my best buddy. Even if she was duped, even if Mike arranged the entire thing, she made her decision. She opted to think the worst of someone who had never given her reason to question him. I left Emma's house feeling more puzzled than before. The man I considered my best friend had devised a complex plan to steal my fiancée, and she had fallen fully for it. I need time to comprehend everything. Emma suggests I take legal action, but honestly, I just want to know how the two people I trusted the most could betray me so completely. Update 2. The situation has gotten even darker. Following my visit with Florence, I couldn't shake the sensation that there was more to Mike's story. I started looking into his previous relationships, and what I discovered made me physically nauseous. It appears Florence was not his first victim. Mike had already used this exact identical method twice. Both times, he targeted ladies who were engaged to close friends. My sister assisted me in tracking down these women via social media, and their stories were chillingly identical to mine. The first was Jennifer, 32, who got engaged to Mike's college friend, Ryan, in 2012. Mike spent months convincing her that Ryan was involved in illegal gambling and had enormous debts. He faked threatening communications from alleged loan sharks and even staged a break-in at their flat to make the threat appear serious. Jennifer left Ryan 2 days before the wedding and married Mike 3 weeks later. She found out the truth when Ryan's alleged gambling debt collectors never appeared, and the threatening texts stopped as soon as she married Mike. Melissa, 29 female, became engaged to Mike's co-worker, David, in 2014. Mike took a different strategy with her, inventing evidence that David was still married to his high school sweetheart and had 2 children that he was keeping hidden. He even hired an actress to pretend to be David's wife and confront Melissa at work. Melissa panicked and left David, but Mike stepped in as her supporter and defender. They married at Rosewood Manor, the same place he later recommended for my wedding to Florence. Both marriages had the same pattern: fast weddings following dramatic breakups, followed by Mike isolating the women from their friends and family. Both marriages failed in 2 years once the women discovered his lies. Jennifer discovered old emails revealing Mike had organized everything. Melissa met David's alleged secret wife at a grocery shop and discovered she was only an actress Mike had hired. The most unsettling aspect was discovering that Mike had actually produced a document explaining his manipulative strategies. Jennifer discovered it on his laptop during their divorce. It revealed a strategy for breaking up engaged couples and positioning himself as a valued friend and protector. He had notes on which falsehoods worked best, how to isolate the target from their support system, and even a schedule for when to release each piece of fabricated evidence. These discoveries have left Florence devastated. She has filed for divorce and is working with Jennifer and Melissa to put up a legal case against Mike. They have all given statements to a lawyer about Mike's history of dishonesty and manipulation. The lawyer believes they have a case for fraud and emotional anguish, but the situation has become more convoluted as time has gone. Mike has disappeared after Florence confronted him about everything. His social media accounts are gone, and his parents say they have no idea where he is. I learned from common friends that he cleared out their joint bank account before departing. Florence wants to make apologies and reveal Mike's pattern of behavior in order to keep him from doing this to anybody else. She's been working with the lawyer and has volunteered to pay for counseling for anyone impacted by Mike's schemes. While I appreciate her efforts to make things right, I will keep my distance. The damage he created is irreversible, and being around Florence still triggers too many unpleasant memories. I've been in contact with Mike's other victims, Ryan and David. We're still trying to understand how one individual could systematically destroy so many lives for his own warped enjoyment. The three of us will meet next week to compare information and decide whether to take joint legal action against Mike. Update 3. I need to disclose something that will change everything. 2 months have gone since my last update, and I have uncovered the true cause for Florence's abrupt comeback in my life. It was not about revealing Mike's lies or making atonement. She was attempting to use me to damage Mike after learning about my new life. My wife, Lisa, 29F, and I met at work 4 years ago. We dated for 2 years before marrying, and we now have twin boys who have just turned 1. We're happy and established, and I thought I'd put the past behind me. Florence learned about our lives through my sister's social media posts. Florence turned up at my sister's house again last week, this time drunk and angry. She began yelling about how I had moved on and had a beautiful life while she squandered 8 years with Mike. She admits to following my family's social media accounts for months, observing my life from afar. When she saw my wedding to Lisa and our babies, something inside her snapped. Her plan had been calculated. She wanted to win me back not because she still loved me, but because she saw it as the ideal retribution against Mike. She figured that if she could get me to abandon my wife for her, it would ruin Mike in the same manner that he had destroyed me years before. The proof of his previous manipulations was real, but she had timed its disclosure to try to bring me back in. The most alarming thing was discovering that she had drove by our house multiple times, watching Lisa and our boys in the front yard. She had even pondered approaching Lisa and telling her about our past, attempting to cause issues in my marriage. The only reason she didn't was that she wanted to practice playing the victim first. My sister finally told me this because she felt bad about first urging me to listen to Florence. Emma had no idea Florence's intentions were so wicked. She believed Florence truly wanted to make apologies, not use me as a pawn in her vendetta against Mike. I've chosen to file a restraining order against Florence, rather than Mike. I cannot have her anywhere near my family. Lisa is understandably shaken by all of this, especially since Florence has been babysitting our children. We'll be relocating to a new house in a different neighborhood next month. I've instructed my entire family to keep their social media accounts private and not disclose any information about us. My lawyer is creating cease and desist letters for Florence and Mike. This entire scenario has shown me that people may be as manipulative as those who injure them. Florence spent 8 years with a master manipulator and eventually became one herself. I feel sad for her, but my first priority has to be to safeguard my wife and children. I've blocked Florence and Mike's numbers and requested my relatives not to forward any messages from either of them. Some chapters should remain closed. Lisa and my boys are now my life, and I refuse to let the demons of my past destroy what we've created together.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.